fragile. Shit's going wrong. This is our opening event of the Hacks Festival, and there's a lot going on in the festival. hax.skullspace.ca has the full schedule. I'd like to thank our sponsors. We have a crowd fund that covered honoraria. So that's the crowd, and less.net provides us internet ongoing here at Skullspace. And I see that it is 1:45, so I am going to hand it off to tonight's panel moderator, Sarah Aronson.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Tonight we're going to be discussing a topic that's really close to everyone's hearts right now that the pandemic is either in its late stages or winding down. I guess we're not really sure yet what. And this topic is, how do you reignite a hackerspace after a pandemic? And tonight we have 3 panelists. Our third one will be here soon. We have Mark Campbell.
Hey there, Mark Campbell.
We have Michael Kozakowicz.
Hey.
Kozakowicz, okay. And pretty soon we'll have Sue Hampel. I guess though, since it's 1:45, maybe if you guys could briefly introduce yourselves, that would be a nice way to start.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go first. So, yeah, I'm Mark Campbell. I was a director last year during the pandemic. Right before the pandemic started, I said, let's do another term of being a director at Skullspace. Let's try to do things. And then everything got shut down, and we spent a year just doing nothing pretty much. But yeah, I was a founding member of Skullspace, and I love it here. I'm trying to volunteer, and I like spending my time.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Michael.
I'm Michael Kozakowicz. I don't know. I'm a tutor at River College, so I've been doing a lot of the helping people with the beginning programming, stuff like that. So I'm well versed in all the earlier tech stuff that they would learn at the college. And yeah, I have been a director since 2017, I guess. I'm the one keeping the books, things like that. So yeah, as we got to pandemic season, it was like, okay, things kind of slowed down. And I just kind of kept up with, what do you call it, the flow of things.
Yeah.
Keeping the wheels turning, things like that.
So both of you have been directors.
Mm-hmm.
So you're very involved with space.
A bit. Yeah, I helped plan our with the parties.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Those are the important bits, right?
That was lots of fun volunteering for that. Yeah.
Yeah, those are fun parties.
Mm-hmm.
With them, yeah.
Yeah, it always needs, that core group to get it running.
Yeah, not just me. Don't worry.
No, it was just
Yeah.
I ran the last one.
Yeah,
I ran the one in 2016, and it didn't really get that much money.
Oh, come.
Yeah, just come on and have a seat.
Edwin and I, the 2 people who don't drink, were in charge of buying the drinks. We're like, I don't know what do people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Okay, well here's our third panelist.
Here's our third panelist. Yeah, here we go.
Apparently it's been 5 years since I've been to the Yellow Dog, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Susan.
I left
Hi, we're on
someone
camera.
1,000
Yeah, I know.
gold
Mark
coin
wanted
tip at
me.
the Yellow
Oh,
Dog.
okay. All right. Well,
2013.
we can catch up after
much is
this,
that
I guess. We should
Maybe
probably continue the
2014.
panel.
It
Indeed.
was worth around
Okay.
$800.
We were just making
last year.
introductions.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Sorry for
Okay,
interrupting.
we're going to just continue the panel.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so we had already introduced Mark and Michael, so now if you could just briefly introduce yourself, that would be great.
Mark said I didn't have to prepare anything. Who am I again?
You can just say your name.
I'm Sue. I've been a member of Skullspace since almost the beginning. Boy, has it changed, and boy, it's still the same.
Okay.
Well, it's
Yeah.
so many of the old people are still here, and there's so many new people who are participating, and that's kind of how it should be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice, very loyal membership, I think.
I do
Yeah.
notice there's like the two parts where there's a loyal membership base, and then there's like the sort of churn of people who are fairly new who come in and leave and come in and leave.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, you'll get a shift into.
Yeah.
So do you
solid
think it's
base.
because they come with a specific goal in mind, and then once it's done, they're
Maybe. I mean, a lot of the people who come are in school of some sort, university or the college, and they come in because they're looking for a community that'll help them learn that stuff, right?
and someplace to study at 2 a.m.
That too.
Yeah.
Well, that gives us a good entree into our first question of the night. So people come here for different reasons. So in your mind, what is a hackerspace? Like what's it about to you? What makes up a hackerspace? And I guess we could start with Mark.
Yeah, sure. To me,
Or just scooch in more.
yeah.
Like, what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, for me, it was a place to meet people and learn. I met it at the beginning of my programming career, and I also had just moved to Winnipeg, and so that was a great place for me to talk and meet people. Certainly some of my longest friends now are Skull Spacers, and to me, it's the people, and it's the common interest as well that makes this hackerspace like really good.
Okay. What about you, Michael?
I think it's the non-common interests. Like, we like our computer things, but I remember when I first got involved, Sue and some others were doing hydroponics. So it was really neat. Yeah, you'd walk through this. It was like, the first space was kind of like this treehouse boys club kind of thing. It was weird. So it was all kind of dark. But the lights with the hydroponics were there to hear the trickling water. And it gave the whole place some really interesting atmosphere. Even though it didn't really go well in the end.
Well, it was an experiment. That was kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
I do think that hanging the space blankets helped reflect the light and help the plants do a bit better. I do not have a green thumb. I was not the go-to person on this.
Having more windows or something would have been better too.
Yeah.
Those were the only windows, right?
It wasn't anywhere near windows.
No, I said. Well, there was one window back there in the kitchen.
So that's
Anyways.
one of the things you're saying about like the original Skull Space. So more generally speaking, though, what do you think, Sue, is a hackerspace? What does that mean to you?
It's been two things to me. It's been meeting new people who tend to be smarter than me, which is really cool. Or at the very least, they have interests that I've never even considered. Like, I mean, yes, periodically I get an idea to grow a plant, but I would have never gone to the trouble of setting up a hydroponic system. And then that one was something special. It was like recycled 2-liter bottles arranged in a tower so that you feed the water in through the top and then it drips through the first and down and down and down and down.
Well, it sort of drips and then it splatters, and then the bottom ends up dry.
The theory was good. But, so it was all about trying stuff.
Yeah. So that spirit of like experimentation.
It's okay. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys think it's hard now because, it's hard now because we don't have the people together, right? So the people are online and they're distant from each other. So that probably makes it harder.
I think so. I mean, there's no reason that you couldn't do a group project on telecommuting, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But it was just the excitement of you never knew what somebody else at the space was going to be doing that might be. I mean, even if you didn't care about it, just watching the excitement of them doing it kind of made me want to try.
Yeah. So that's kind of what is that what brought you to Skull Space, or what actually brought you to Skull Space? Let's start with Sue.
Oh,
What made you interested in Skull Space particularly?
friends. I don't know if you remember Dave Curry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we were hanging out a lot, and both he and I live with our parents. So it's like, it would be nice to be able to hang out at 2 a.m. and not bug people. oh, I know just the place.
Yeah.
And streaming stupid YouTube videos and whatever.
Yeah, you got the projector. Well, you
Oh,
got
yeah, like-
the boxing thingy from the movie Hackers, whatever that.
You know,
Oh.
what I never did try was those VR things that you had to step up on.
Oh, yeah,
like,
that sounds
I was
fun.
always so scared because it was a tall step, and then you have to put on these goggles, and it's like, okay, it does have a little safety rail around, but I'm a klutz. There's no two ways about that. But I do wish I had tried, because I'm sure Mike got rid of those years ago.
Oh, it might be still in his warehouse. He's got a huge warehouse with crap and stuff. Yeah.
I never actually tried that. I was under the impression that it was like broken or half.
It worked. It worked. It was just like really, really heavy. You stick it on your head, and it's like balancing like a stone on your head, basically.
Yeah.
And it's like looking through like the resolution was like 200p, like 200 pixels across. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Stories that Skull Space passed.
Yeah, the old space at
The old space.
on Adelaide. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So Michael, what drew you into Skull Space originally?
I don't know really. I had this idea of a place. I heard about the hackathons, right? So I had this idea of a place where people would come in and like work on some stuff, and I was like, hey, that sounds like fun. Coming in for an afternoon and working on something. Ended up being a little different. Kind of like random people would have the project, like Sue had said. You come in and you see what people are working on. And I still got my first night at Skull Space burned into my memory. Because there's the hydroponics, and then like I think Justin was designing some circuit board thing for his amp, his DAC.
Yeah.
And I think Ben Bergman had just gotten his fancy weird keyboard with the new keys, and he had to like put all the keys on. And he was like trying it out. And yeah, so there's a lot going on that night.
He's doing that professionally now, right?
Oh yeah, wow.
Like messing around with that kind of stuff. He works for
That's
the
nice.
Human Rights Museum.
Mm.
He like programs the exhibits.
Oh,
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
I remember he posted about that years ago, and I've been meaning to go to the museum just to see it.
Oh yeah,
And
all this stuff. Yeah.
Haven't made it. Is it still up?
I'm not sure if which project you're talking about, but I went there and
Are
I messaged
any of
him.
his projects
Oh,
still
yeah.
up and
Oh,
running
yeah.
there?
Oh yeah, I think he still works there.
It's an ongoing thing for him.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
I should go visit.
$15 entry though. No. $5 only Tuesday, first Tuesday of
Yeah.
the month or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you go.
Okay.
But yeah, so I guess I was brought in from an idea of something that sounded interesting, and I stayed because of just the variety that was found here.
Okay. So lots of people doing lots of different projects, and you just
Yeah, on any given night you come in and like it was just people who were doing different things.
right.
Some people might be 3D printing, other people will be. I've historically baked some things or whatever, made some food. Other people are just lounging around. Sometimes there's interesting videos being played, things like that.
For sure.
And what about you, Mark? What drew you into Skull Space originally?
Yeah, I like the people for sure. At the beginning, I was like programming a lot, and I was like in college, so I really wanted to make the most of my time and connect with people who are also programmers. And at the time too, I was going to Red River College across the street, so that was pretty convenient for me too. Like just go out there in the evening, or
That was nice.
yeah, it was really nice. And the reason why I keep coming back is because there's a lot of freedom here to do whatever you want, right? So like I never knew I wanted to throw like a rave until we had the summer party, and Chris, rest in peace, wanted to take it on and run it.
Was
So
that at like Colin's place? Like you went out into the country?
no.
Sorry, which one was this?
No, just the September party.
Oh, the September
in
one, okay.
2019.
Yeah, the party we've thrown here. Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
So yeah, like years passed when I had first joined. It was more like that, and then I went to Toronto, and then I came back, and of course I'm going to be a Skull Space member because I like it here. But for me now, it's trying to do more music stuff and producing and that kind, and more hacking too in general. But I've got programming stuff going on during the day. I got in a side business too, programming, so I can't shove in more programming
Yeah.
This is so
at
fun.
Skull Space. Yeah, so like I don't need a third project of the same type.
So how do you guys think that Skull Space has changed, like during the pandemic and because of the pandemic? Maybe we'll start with Michael.
So there's been a trend, I think, even before the pandemic, where you would get the students, you would get some, people who were interested in 3D printing, but a lot of those, like, what would you call it, hardcore geeks, the ones you think about when you think about the movie Hackers, those types, are in short supply these days. I think that era has kind of phased out, and that generation has kind of given way to a new generation. And so things are different.
Do you think the pandemic has changed things, like in terms of what people do here?
I think we're more familiar with online whatchamacallits.
Yeah.
So there had been the idea of like holding meetings online even before,
and we did at the beginning too. We were live streaming when we were at the Low Pub.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh okay.
Like people would tune in. We had to
Oh jeez, that was before my time, man.
Someone set up a laptop at the end of the table and like.
That would have been like 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez. So we never really gotten around to that here. I think we did it once or twice during big meetings. It was like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of annoying to set up. And now all this infrastructure is out there on the web. It's pretty easy just to make an online meeting and do something like this, right? So we could very well start having these hybrid systems, especially for all our members who don't come visit. Historically, we've had a lot of members who would pop in here and there, but would never really come by that often. We have a few members who haven't been by in years. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, years even before the pandemic. So it'd be nice to be able to provide, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the current group of members is probably more open than the original group was. That's one thing I really remember is the paranoia. We couldn't have a members list because, well, it's a hackerspace. We said so, and some people might not want their names to be associated with that publicly.
Yeah.
Then why are we calling it a hackerspace? Because it's cool. and then there was this dichotomy, right?
There's always a dichotomy.
Wasn't it called like rule space or amendment space? What was it called?
Oh, amendment space. It was way back. It was like in 2012. We had just gotten the space like a couple of years before, so we were still kind of hammering out all the rules and stuff. So in 2012, there were a whole bunch of amendments pushed through.
Yeah, and a lot of them fell by like one vote, or failed to pass by one
vote.
vote.
Try it again next time.
Yeah, it was like the blackball provision where you had to, if you had more than two, if you had two people who said they didn't want you to join, then, and I think this rule is still applies.
Was that only added then?
No, it wasn't that it was added. It was it was up to be removed.
Oh.
Because someone joined or whatever, and like two people basically stood up and said no to this one person, and then they're like, well, what do I do now? And then you can't do anything because the bylaws just said two people stand up and you can't come in. And so they wanted to change it to two people stand up, but then it's at the board's discretion to say yes or no.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was changed.
That wasn't changed. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a long digression.
Yeah, that's the past. Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think, Mark? Like over the last 2 years of the pandemic, has Skullspace changed?
Yeah. It stayed the same. I would say we're stagnating. We tried to make an effort to have more consistent events happening. Right before the pandemic, we were going to call it Skullspace 3.0. It's still there. It's still plans, but. We needed at the time, this is what I identified, was more recurring activities happening, not just the Tuesday meeting and movie night. I mean, I love Tuesday meetings and the movie night, that's great, love it. But also, like, we wanted to do like board games on a monthly basis.
Yeah. We were just starting that stuff up. We had the tech classes.
Yeah, we did the tech club too, right before that.
We got a grant. We still have the money.
Yeah.
So you were starting to do more regular activities before the pandemic, or you were planning to do more regular activities?
We're just kicking up. We got these like tables and things.
Yeah, September we did a fundraiser, like
anti-social.
Yeah, anti-social. We did an anti-social which was basically a borderline rave music, and then which was lots of fun.
Always used to be.
But the second thing that happened during that fall was we did the tech club for kids. So we did a free to the public 25-person class here for 3 hours, 3 Saturdays in a row, and we sold out, so to speak. It was fully attended, and so that was great too, because we asked the city of Winnipeg to give us a little bit of money. So I think it was Vivian Santos, thank you if you're out there watching, and Ross Eady, thank you. We got $500 for like Raspberry Pis and like 3D printing and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then we wanted to do, and then so like we're doing those activities, and then I became a director, and I'm like, okay, let's do a monthly board game night and add tech club activities, like whatever. And then, pandemic hit. It's unfortunate,
Yeah. And so the pandemic erased all those activities you guys were planning to do.
Yes, and so my view of it was like, you need people to come out and do these things consistently, and if they're volunteering, it's great, but you want someone who's going to really come out consistently, and not just one person. Like, you need one person to run it, kind of, and like make sure everything's happening, but you need more than one person to come in and volunteer. And so I wanted to instill that with people, make things fun for people to come out for their own reasons, not just because Mark or
They have to,
or they have to or something, like that's not how our Hackerspace is.
Yeah, you want it to be a good experience for people.
Yeah, and that's how you really get people to enjoy and use Skull Space, and you make it so that people want to come here.
Of course, yes, it's inviting. So what would you say some of the challenges are that are facing Hackerspaces right now, given the pandemic, just in general? Like, what would you say some of the biggest issues are?
Hackerspaces, or
Yeah, Hackerspaces in general, because we're talking
Oh.
about how do you reignite a Hackerspace in general, so why don't we just turn to that now?
I think each one is very different. I think there's probably some out there that are having a great time. Meanwhile, we're just like, I don't know, we'll just wait for a bit. I've been lazy too. I think the biggest thing really is to have things like I mentioned moving to online stuff, having the meetings recorded, stuff like that, but being able to coordinate events, we'll say, hacker events online using digital teams, even doing these like weird like VR setups and stuff like that. Like you could make 3D rooms that you sit in together and do some programming. I mean, if we're doing programming, like it depends what people are into, right? But if we're doing something like programming, like capture the flags, things like that, we don't have to be physically in the same space, as long as you have that idea of space, of being together in a moment. So there's certainly things that could be done, things to look at.
I think it's like the appetite, like are people actually wanting to log on for a Saturday remotely, or do they want to come down and hang out and do the same challenge in person? I think there's a lot to be said for the latter.
Yeah, so the challenge is that whether or not people will actually come to your events if they're online.
Yeah, that's a big one actually. Yeah.
It goes both ways too, right? Like if they're online, well, are they engaged? They might not be engaged enough, maybe they won't. But if it's online, it's easier to drop in, right? So you can just be like, well, you know what, I'll pop in because I can.
Yeah. Sue, do you have any thoughts about what kind of challenges might Hackerspaces be facing?
No, my mind went off on a bit of a tangent, and I started wondering, well, how are the other Hackerspaces? Do we keep in touch with them anymore?
Yeah.
That was one of the exciting things when I first joined. When I went on holidays, I made a point of seeking out whatever Hackerspaces were in the cities I was visiting.
Yeah.
And
we got a Christmas card from Hack Lab or someone.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
That's nice. I've went there a couple of times when I lived in Toronto. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
They had a tiny little apartment in Kensington Market.
Yeah.
That they were paying more per month.
Yeah.
For a space that was like a fourth of this,
Oh dear.
I think the continual challenge is just like keeping together, and keeping like touching base, right?
Yeah. People staying in touch with each other. Has your membership declined at all because of the pandemic?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen attrition, like
I mentioned earlier, like we got that strong base, and then we got the people who flow in and out.
Yeah.
That's basically dwindled because there's people flowing out with no one flowing in because we couldn't give tours, right? There's a lot to be said for the physical space. That's kind of most of the purpose that we've had here has been the physical space. We will say, oh, hey, look at these tools you have. Look at, there's a place you can go if you're downtown, things like that. So the space was a large factor for most people.
So you're having trouble because you're not attracting people to a physical space anymore, so that makes it harder.
So you have to give them like online value of some kind, community, things like that. And Skullspace, we've tried to give people access to the community. Like we've got the Slack channel, anyone who wants to can just request access. We'll invite them in. We've got the discuss list. So anyone really can become part of the sort of online community. We're not gatekeeping that. But that's not really much of an incentive to, purchase a membership.
Yeah, and it's like there's so many other communities in Winnipeg that are also tech-based that have stronger online memberships, and or are part of other nonprofits.
Yeah.
So we've got competition, so to speak, from groups that actually do hold stuff online weekly that people will opt to go do instead of coming to a place like us or participating.
Yeah.
We have less focus. That's another issue, right? Than those groups.
You have competition because you're more of a general hackerspace, and without the actual space, being able to give tours and people coming in and out, it makes it harder because you're limited to the online events.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, like, this space is like mom's basement kind of feel. So like, even if you get people who come in, it's like you're only gonna get people who like the people here, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. They're not just coming because it's cheap. A cheap place to go hang out at 2 a.m. or work during the day.
Yeah.
But
And do you think it's harder to get to know people when you're not getting to hang out with them in person?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's like, over the years, at the beginning I'd be like eager to meet people and stuff, and in the middle years I'd be like, like I'll go down or not, whatever. And now it's like I want to be organizing things, but not necessarily just going to the space to socialize and make new friends. Like I've already got strong social circle now that my interests lay more like with getting my kids engaged with Skullspace, for example.
Okay. And you guys don't really know how this applies to other hackerspaces because you're not really in touch with other hackerspaces.
It's funny you mention that because like Sue was saying, like I'd go visit hackerspaces. Like I went to ENTS in Edmonton and haven't even thought about them in a few years.
Over the years, we've had travelers come here and they're like, "Oh, I'm from this hackerspace." Yeah.
Yeah, we had that German dude come in.
Right. That was a couple of years ago. Everything was a few years ago.
Yeah, I know, right before the pandemic, right?
Remember that thing that happened? It was a few years ago, right? I have generally been lazy, and I have generally been the one just keeping the wheels turning. So I'm like, just the machinery of Skullspace, and it's really dependent on other people kind of coming in and being the ones who push that. So it really depends on who the directors are that year. We've had some that try organizing the community a bit more, try to have some outreach. I forget if anyone had contacted other hackerspaces. I feel like there was some brief mention earlier. Again, years ago, how do you remember? But it depends on kind of who's on the board, and which of our members are keeping in touch at that time. I don't think many of us are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think one factor might be that back then, oh my god, I hate saying shit like that. I used to talk with everybody on IRC, and it was easy to join channels that were for the other hackerspaces and just sort of keep part of the conversation. Yeah. Slack just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
Then again, I'm not working the same job.
Yeah.
Back then I was doing data entry, so I was in front of my keyboard, my monitor all day, and it was no problem to keep a little chat window open, even though I was in an office.
Right.
Now I would use Slack on my phone, and oh man, they frown at me for having a phone at work.
Oh, Slack frowns at me for. Oh no, they got the app now, right? Yeah. Never mind. I do it all in the browser, and they constantly tell me like, "Don't. You must download our app."
Yeah, if anything, I think actually I'm a board member of Ralph Brown Community Center with Nate, and
Cool.
well, I'm officially vice president. La-di-da. But
Oh, come on, you've got a cooler title than that. You were doing superhero themes.
what? What's that?
You have never looked at the website for Ralph Brown?
I made it.
Never mind.
What's wrong with it?
I'm pretty sure you had superhero titles.
Oh
not,
yes,
not
oh the
boring.
superhero, yes.
Yes.
We actually got an email once from like the GCWCC. It's like they fund our community center. It's like run by the city, and they're like, "What's wrong with like why is your vice president like the Hulk or like Captain America or like all these?" We're like, "Whoops!"
I thought it was
fun.
So would you say that like Skull Space is in need of being reignited at this point, and getting like has it shrunk down, and is it in need of getting started again?
I'd say so. I would love to have more recurring events happening here, and we can have a membership that grows with the interests.
We're
that
kind
are
of in that
actually
blossoming
happening.
period where it's like COVID is over.
Yeah.
We did this before, and it was like, whoops, no.
Well,
Like a groundhog coming out.
this could work really well. Like, I know I'm kind of getting antsy being at home all the time. It would be nice to go out to something again. And, part of the group that I feel comfortable with, not like going to the arena for a huge concert or something.
Yep.
Mid-scale.
Baby steps. So we're hoping that this pandemic will peter out, and that people will be able to come.
I think
and
everyone's kind of hoping it'll peter
everyone's
out.
hoping. Yeah, that's a tough thing, because we don't know whether it's gonna actually peter out or whether we're just waiting for another wave.
Yeah, it's First Fridays today. First Fridays in the exchange, they do some stuff where everyone walks around, and they were bothering us about it like every month. It was like, I don't know if First Fridays is coming, but I don't know, there's still a pandemic. I don't know if anyone really wants to. And then every month they'd be doing that, and I think I eventually just canceled it. I was like, no. But everyone's kind of trying to get out there now.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you guys have any ideas for how to reignite this particular hackerspace in this late pandemic or post-pandemic period?
I think we got a few things going on. We got the space getting its occupancy permit finally, hopefully. Maybe. We'll see.
It's an ongoing project.
Yes, it's actually like 6 months. I applied for it 6 months ago in September, and now I'm finally completing the app with proper drawings, which they required. But we've got that going on, hacks, and hopefully, what else? Like the movie night going on.
Yeah, movie night's continuing on with Thor. Because it's kind of like everything stopped for a bit, and then now we're kind of reaching out a little bit, like, oh, what about this? What about that? Getting a little extra things here and there. I don't know. It'll just be a continuing process. We're getting more members suddenly. There's a regrowth. I don't know about rekindling, because you imagine something bursting into flame, and I'm imagining more like a slow growth. The greening in a spring, right? Comes up, then things grow, and then by July it's like, we'll see.
Yeah, and that was one thing that you were touching on earlier, Sue and Michael here, about the next generation. Like the original part of Skull Space was that there was a hardcore group of people from University of Manitoba who said, let's start a hackerspace. Posted it to Reddit. Few other people glommed on, and then that was the start of it. And there was like 40 or 50 people doing it, right? And then now we've probably lost half of those people, right? But we've replaced them over the years with more hardcore members. And that's great, but also like it's a town of 700,000 people, and if we can't find 50, 100 people, why can't we find 200 people who are software developers but would find enough value in a place like this? That's on us, and we need to come up with ways to make it fun for people to come in.
Yeah, so you're trying to get more members. Okay, well, we have about 10 minutes left, so just trying to think.
Was that the last question too?
Well, that was the last question, so we have 10 minutes to talk about, to discuss a topic related to this. So let's see, we talked about trying to attract more members. We talked about getting events going again.
Yeah, I have some online audience questions.
Oh, we do.
Open
Okay.
the online audience to jump on a video conference with us as well. So do you guys want to jump right to that?
Yeah, why don't we jump to the audience questions? That's great.
Okay, so just going to be in the broadcast. Yeah. Okay. So you guys talked about makerspaces versus hackerspaces. Okay. And Heather Armstrong, you're welcome to jump in with your question. Everyone will hear you. It's up to you. But while we wait for you, Heather, we'll read some other questions from the
Well,
chat.
we didn't quite go through that. So, hackerspace and makerspace.
Repeat the question.
Yeah. So it was like, what is the difference between a hacker space and a makerspace? And I don't know. Did did the first part go through, or was it all silent the entire way?
No,
Okay. Yeah, we were sharing a space at the very beginning with I don't know if I'd call it a makerspace or like just a prototyping company called AscentWorks.
They called themselves a makerspace at the time.
Yeah.
It's been interesting to see the divergence between
Yeah.
us and them, to me anyway,
Yeah.
because they seem to go more serious and businessy and very much people who had ideas for doing things professionally and wanting to use the really high-end tools. Whereas I think we tended to be the people who, well, I have an idea. I just want to slap it together and play with it, because it wasn't necessarily so much the building, it was making the idea happen good enough, just barely good enough.
Yeah.
So
There's always been that question of what is hacking, And I think we've got something on our webpage now where we try to explain it. It's kind of like that idea of having a thought of something you could do and just being like, okay, well, what can I, what tools do I have? What materials do I have? You might go out and buy some stuff, right? But then you just kind of try fitting it together. And you might even fail and you might want to try again. But it's that curiosity and that process of exploring and doing. And so really the essence of a hackerspace is that we're like, oh, hey, we have ideas and we're just trying things. We're putting things together, cobbling things, right? It's much more raw and unfocused as opposed to like a business strategy that you have and like, okay, we need these tools. We're going to pay the big bucks. We're making a business around this. Let's get all these things together.
For sure.
Okay, do we have any more questions?
We do. Okay, so, and Heather, if you want to unmute, you can ask something live. Okay, I'm going to go to the chat.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing Heather was talking about in the chat was, a few people were talking about, like online and virtual stuff, and they like having an event like this with participation, and we had a comment that I would sign up for online membership only.
Right.
And, so, I'm sorry, I was. Well, what do you guys think of a virtual option?
We'd briefly entertain something like that, or it was like,
Repeat the question.
Okay, yeah, let's repeat the question.
yeah,
Somebody in the chat asked about a virtual membership.
yeah.
And so what do you guys think about a virtual options?
Yeah. What do we think about a virtual membership? And we had thought about something like that, I think, at one point. It was, I think, members in honorarium or whatever, people who had left or people who were away. I think that's what it was, people who moved away. And there's a bunch of random stuff to that because it's like, well, half our membership isn't coming anyways. So wouldn't they all just switch to that? And we would lose, a quarter of our membership dues. It's a debate to have, certainly. We don't usually have. Our fees aren't super high. It's almost just a placeholder value. Although we would like to offer more. I don't know. Maybe we can offer like a discount or something. We'll have to see.
I wonder if we're looking at this the wrong way. I know that historically we've considered having like a reduced rate membership for people who can't physically come. But was that the intent of the question, or was it just wondering if we were thinking of being able to spin this into a viable virtual entity?
Right. Yeah, like being able to have an online membership. I mean, we could make something new. It depends. So, like I said, it's something to think about. We should probably be talking to our membership and asking these questions.
Okay, that's
If you have anything to
something
add
to
to
think
that.
about. Now, do we have time for another question?
Grab that. So, other sort of thing that came up is like, okay, well, it would be great if we had some kind of online content like we have today, monthly. And so I think there's maybe a good question for us to ask ourselves, like, what does it take as a hackerspace to make that happen? The 3 minutes we have.
We used to have a wiki, which served that purpose to an extent, and we used to talk a lot on the mailing list, which was, I don't know how accessible it was for reference, but it was certainly entertaining to be participating in. I don't know as a hackerspace what specifically we would offer on that front now that isn't available on a basic Google search, but it could be fun to try. I guess it would depend on what people express an interest in, and then if people latch onto it and go, well, I know a little bit about this, or I've been playing with this, which is kind of like that. Maybe we could. Again, to me, it's all about the people and getting engaged with doing a thing. I'm simultaneously a generalist, but I need a focus too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, there's all sorts of knowledge out there, but I'm not going to learn it all.
So there would have to be some kind of focus to produce ongoing content, you think?
I,
Yes.
user input, I think is what I'm saying we need. It could start as easy as one person asking a question, and if it's an interesting question to even two people, then you get a conversation going, and other people will pipe in, even if it's to say, "No way, that would never work. You should try this instead."
Well, I think we might be out of time. I don't think we have time to answer more questions at this point. But thank you, audience, for giving us those questions. That was great. And thank you to all of you, Mark, Michael, and Steve, for participating in our panel today.
I was just trying to.
I don't know if you can hear-
Yeah, no, I was just trying to mic you while you were saying thank you for everyone for their participation. We can have applause in the room. And I'm just going to note before I cut the stream that the movie night stream is not on this YouTube stream. There is a link on the hax.skullspace.ca website. And that link reads skullspace.fullspeed.tv, and actually the picture with the sneaker and the swordfish, if you click that, that also goes there. And if that link's not working right away, just be patient, check back, and there'll be a night of movies there soon. Chat participation in movie night, if you can find your way to the Skullspace chat room on Libera, there are some links on the Hacks site and the front page of the Skullspace site. And yeah, skullspace.ca/donate. PayPal is there with, you don't even need a PayPal account. You can kind of just put a credit card in. And if you look at the donate section on hax.skullspace.ca, there's also instructions for Interac e-transfer. So we will appreciate any and all support to keep Skullspace going. All right, and this concludes our panel stream.